Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the 2026 Ram 1500 Warlock. Now Ram was nice enough to actually send me this truck for a week, and to me, I almost bought one of these trucks earlier this year, so it was actually nice not to just go to a dealership and drive it for a few miles and talk about the truck. Instead, I've been actually driving quite a few of these trucks. I just got done a couple weeks ago at the Chelsea Proving Grounds driving the new 2026 one with the HEMI. And this one here, it actually has the new 3-liter Hurricane i6 twin turbo standard output engine. So I've had a chance to really drive both trucks. This one I've actually put up almost 600 miles on since they sent it to me. But I've had a good chance to actually spend some time with the package. And again, I'm really impressed. This has to be by far probably my favorite package for 2025 and 2026. We're going to go in depth details about what the Warlock is, its different features, what comes on it for 2026, and talk about my driving impressions. So stay tuned. We got a whole bunch of new details coming for this truck, and hopefully you'll like what you see. So what is the Warlock package? Well, if you know anything about Dodge or Ram history, you know that the Warlock name is nothing new. Back in the late 1970s, it made its debut on an alternative to the Little Red Express truck as part of Dodge's adult toy portfolio. That truck was very successful then, and through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, it was on hiatus. However, in 2019, Ram decided to bring the nameplate back, but instead of making it more of a performance truck, they actually used it on a outgoing version of the Ram 1500 Rebel. However, this model actually had street tires. Little did they know for the Ram 1500 Classic that package would become widely popular, to the point where in 2021, people were actually begging for an all-terrain version, so they actually brought one out. So again, it was kind of more of a budget-friendly version of the outgoing Ram 1500 Rebel. Fast forward to 2023, and Ram decided to bring it quietly to the DT 5th generation trucks. So that's when we actually got to see this model come out as a tradesman-based Rebel. So if what you're looking at is all the underpinnings of the Ram 1500 Rebel, but wrapped in a tradesman wrapper. So you're basically getting a budget-friendly version of the Ram 1500 Rebel. Ultimately, in 2023, this truck was released really late in the model year. Not a lot of people knew about it. In 2024, it wasn't really talked about a lot, but it did offer 3.6-liter Pentastar power as well as 5.7-liter HEMI power. In 2025, Ram decided to make the Warlock its own package. So that itself kind of made it stand out a little bit more. But because the truck went through a mid-cycle action and actually got updated styling, all new electrical architecture, they decided to give the package one standard powertrain. So that powertrain is the twin-turbo 3-liter Hurricane inline-6 standard output engine. Now for 2026, Ram's is doing something a little different. Instead of just offering the Hurricane engine in it, they're actually offering Pentastar V6 power standard. You can opt for the Hurricane as the mid-engine, and then you can also opt for the 5.7-liter HEMI. Now, if you've been following me on the channel here, you know that I was actually looking at these trucks earlier this year to actually purchase one before I got my Dodge Charger Daytona. And Ram actually brought me out to the Chelsea Proving Grounds a few weeks ago to drive the HEMI-powered one, which I was really impressed. However, I still wanted to drive the Hurricane model. Now, I drove it at dealerships. I'll be honest with you, I drove it at a dealership, put a couple miles on it, but it was nothing like, hey, spend a long-term, time with the truck. Driving the HEMI, you only get a few hours at the Chelsea Proving Grounds to actually drive it off-road and stuff. So I was curious about what day-to-day life would be like. So with that being said, Ram actually sent me this truck here. So this is a Hurricane-powered 2026 Ram 1500 Warlock. Now, the interesting thing is this is a brand new truck. When I came to my house, it had only if I had 503 miles on it. So it just got broke in. Now, in the last week, I've put about pretty close to 500 miles on this thing. And I got to spend some very good time actually driving it on different conditions, driving it out in the country, driving it in the city. And I will say, in my opinion, people say I'm biased because I'm a huge Ram fan. But honestly, I think this is the best package for 2025 and 2026 that you could buy in the Ram. The reason being is a lot of people think like, oh, this is just a tradesman, version of the Rebel. It is. But I think people will be very shocked to find out how much actual technology is in this truck, how many features you get. And again, it's under $60,000. So this one actually prices out at $56,595. The only thing with that is, Yes, $56,000 is a lot of money for a pickup. However, I will say compared to other, things that are on the market right now, it's very comparable. So the funny thing is if you look at the actual looks of this truck, yeah, it looks like a tradesman model, okay? It's got the same front, same kind of bumpers and stuff. Unlike the Rebel, which has its own unique grille, own unique bumpers, which are actually maximized for approach angles. However, a lot of people don't know that even though this is technically a Rebel underneath, you can get down here in this actual front air dam, you can actually remove that to give you additional ground clearance if you wanted to. Now, I took this truck off-road at the Chelsea Proving Grounds. I did the rock garden. I did water fording with it, hill climbing, stair climbing, even did the 36-inch humps over there, and never did that hit. So again, while it doesn't have the approach angles that the Ram 1500 Rebel has, it is still very capable, and you could still remove this piece of plastic and make it even more off-road capable. Again, just like the Rebel, you get massive steel hooks, tow hooks up front on both sides, and it does look more sleek than the actual Rebel. So I can't complain about that. The other thing is for 2026 and, well, 2025 to be honest, with the refresh is now the Tradesman gets the same headlamps as the Rebel, unlike the earlier 2024 prior models. So you don't get DRLs this time. Instead, you get reflective LED headlamps. However, on the back of the truck, where the Rebels actually got LED tail lamps before, both the Tradesman-based Warlock and the Rebel also get incandescent tail lamps. Something that kind of disappoints me, in 2026. But you do get LED fog lamps for 2026 with the Tradesman Warlock as well. Again, same tires, same suspension. You can see these are Bilsteins, and look how thick those A-arms are. So you can see that this truck is beefed up for off-road use, and it has a 1-inch lift compared to the standard Ram 1500. Now let's talk about what's under the hood of this thing. Now, a lot of people have been complaining about the twin-turbo 3-liter Hurricane Inline-6. Now, this is a relatively new engine. It's been out for a couple years now, but started development around 2013 by FCA. Fortunately, being an inline-6, this thing is ultra smooth. One of the smoothest engines I've ever driven. Unlike the HEMI, when you're sitting in let's say a drive-through at the bank or a fast food place, you can always, it didn't seem like no matter what kind of HEMI engine I drove and what vehicle I owned, it always seemed like the HEMI kind of vibrated a little bit more than what it should at idle. This thing, on the other hand, super smooth, and it's very, very quiet. Now, again, 420 horsepower, 469 pound-feet of torque, and, this engine has plenty of power. It outpowers the 5.7-liter HEMI, but I can understand why some people don't like it. First of all, being a newer engine, it doesn't have a lot of, reliability, time, or at least time to prove that it's reliable. We've heard about stupid issues with thermostat issues and that, and Ram seems to have fixed those. However, a lot of this engine underneath this cover is very plasticky. I really wish that they would take and kind of make the engine a little more durable by getting rid of all that plastic and fixing it so again it's more reliable than just cheap to make. That's not saying that it's not a good engine. The only other thing I can complain about is you can see you can put oil in over there. There's no dipstick at all on either the standard output or the high output. Instead, you have to rely on the computer. Personally, that's something I hate. But when you talk about ultimately the power and stuff, yeah, this thing does really good. Fuel economy wise, driving it over the past week, Ram basically says that this engine's 15% more efficient than the 5.7-liter HEMI. I kind of would agree with that. This engine does get about a mile per gallon, maybe 2, depending on if you're driving on the highway or city, better than the HEMI. I'll show you the mileage that I put on it. I put just over 500 miles on this truck this week, and I'm averaging about 16 miles per gallon. So is it super fuel efficient compared to the HEMI? Not really. But just like the HEMI, this has a lot of pros and cons. The 5.7-liter HEMI actually has the e-torque system, which a lot of people complain about because when they do have failures, it is very expensive to replace that e-torque system and kind of hard because of parts. Well, this one doesn't have an e-torque system. Instead, it has standard start-stop operation, and that's even pretty smooth. You don't notice a big jerk like you did in past models, considering that this doesn't have an e-torque system at all. Both engines share the same 8 HP 75 automatic transmission, and I will say that Ram knows what they're doing when it comes to 8 speeds. Calibration on both of these engines is super smooth. Some of the smoothest trucks I've ever driven. I had an 8 HP 75 in my 2019 Ram 1500 with the HEMI, and I will tell you that since then, Ram has made it even smoother. And if you go back on my previous articles on 5th gen Rams or Mopar Insiders, I talk about that being a highlight of the truck. It's gotten even better to the point where this thing at cruising speed feels like a CVT transmission. You can't even tell when it shifts. I will say there is a couple things that are weird about the standard output one compared to the high output. So unlike the high output one feels like it builds boost a lot better. Now, keep in mind, in the high output motor, you get 540 horsepower and 521 pound-feet of torque, but you have to run premium fuel. And we all know that a lot of people just, hate paying almost, $4 a gallon, at least here in Michigan, for premium fuel. Well, this one here can run on unleaded, and Ram recommends you run it on mid-grade, but you can get away with unleaded. Now, the thing is, I will tell you performance-wise, right off the line, this thing does kind of stutter compared to the high output one. The high output one feels like it builds boost better. This one, it has turbo lag pretty much until 1200 RPM. Once it hits that 1200 RPM and the turbo spool up, it has no problem making power. I do notice on the highway at 75 miles an hour, which is the typical speed I drive, I do notice that this engine compared to the 5.7 liter HEMI does run higher RPM, because you got to remember this is a 3 liter engine compared to a 5.7 liter engine. So yeah, because it's smaller, it's working a little harder. So it runs about 1800 RPM at 75 miles an hour on the highway with the 8 speed. And again, both have the same transmission. However, on the 5.7, I've always run about 1200, 1300 RPM. So again, it's working a little harder. So there are pros and cons to both engines. And again, it just depends on your choice. And if you're one of those people who don't want to tow and just want something more of a budget-friendly option, you can opt for the, well, you don't even have to opt. You can just get the standard 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 with the e-torque system. And that engine provides 305 horsepower and 269 pound-feet of torque. Now that is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission as well, but that is actually a Chrysler-built version of a ZF transmission. So that is the 850RE, the 850RE. And again, that's just as smooth as well. Now, if you're looking at what's the difference in the cost between the engines, a lot of people have questions about it. A lot of people have been confused. So with the Hurricane, this is the mid-range engine. Even though it makes more power, Ram is considering this the mid-engine for 2026. So you get the Pentastar V6 as standard equipment, so there's no charge for that. If you want to step up to a Hurricane power plant, they've actually made it cheaper for 2026. Last year it was $2,695. This year it's $1,695. So it's almost a $1,700 option, but you do get the bigger motor, well, more powerful motor, smaller in displacement, but more powerful. And you do get the bigger 8 HP 75 transmission. If you want the HEMI, it's an additional $1,200 over the Hurricane. Now, I will tell you it gets the same transmission in that, but the HEMI actually has a couple additional options that the Hurricane doesn't have. So, for example, if you get a HEMI model right now, you get this optional 33-gallon fuel tank standard. On top of that, you also get the Mopar catback exhaust, which was a $1,700 standalone option before that was only included on the Ram Rebel GT and Laramie GT models, but now is standard on all HEMIs, no matter if it's a tradesman-based truck all the way to a limited. So that's a cool thing. So if you're actually looking at the difference, if you're looking at a Pentastar and you want to jump up to a HEMI, you're looking at a difference of $2,895. Now, a lot of people might say that's crazy considering, the HEMI is an old engine. But if you actually look back to where it was in 2024 when it, got discontinued, the HEMI was over the Pentastar was actually a $3,045 option. So you're basically saving, over $100, and you're getting a lot more equipment for 2026. Now, one thing you guys should know is that just like the Rebel, the Warlock only comes in one configuration. So you have to get a crew cab model with a 5-foot 7-inch box. So unfortunately, if you want the 6-foot 4-inch box, you will have to do a tradesman, basically a sport, or maybe even a night edition package, and do the 4x4 off-road group. Now, coming into the truck, a lot of people have complained like, hey, it's a bare bones truck. Yes, it is, but it's not really. I mean, you do get the basic plastics. This panel actually is not that bad because this is pretty much the same panel that's on the Bighorn in that. The speaker bezels are a little more upgraded on different models. But for the tradesman, they actually put the satin, like actual trim handles, which is nice. You do get, you know, power windows, power mirrors, as well as lockouts for the back windows and power locks. However, this actual package has the tradesman level 1. So you get the 7-inch TFT screen. You do get carpeting, which is nice, so you know vinyl floors in this. And one of the things I absolutely love about the Warlock, and I wish this was more across to like the upper scale models, is that the fact that it has a standard bench seat. So again, this is having the seat down. You can see that the back of the seat actually has cup holders. It has a nice storage compartment as well. And then you can fold this up, and then you have room for a 6-passenger. So it's great. My daughter loves it because she can sit between her mom and I. The dogs love it because they can sit right in the middle between me and the wife. And again, if you're thinking you're losing more storage because of it not having a center console, the really cool thing is you have tons of storage there. You have storage up front. And this part right here, you can push, and you got a deep drawer here. So you're not losing any storage. You can see I've been charging my phone on the 115 outlet right there. It does have USBs A's and C's as well as an aux. So you're not losing anything. Everybody thinks like, hey, you're losing a lot of stuff if you don't get the center console. It's not true at all. And the best thing is you just pull this down and you have a center console to put your drink and stuff in. Now you can see here, it says I did 50 miles since I filled up last. Basically, I've spent an hour and 13 minutes driving, and I'm averaging about 16.2 miles per gallon. I will say that when I checked my actual fuel economy with this truck, it was very optimistic. It was about a mile per gallon better. You know, I feel like I have enough experience now to kind of tell you guys about the truck. But not only that, you know, a lot of people, like I said, don't feel like this is just, they feel like this is just a stripped out truck. Yes, you don't get the upper glove box like you do in the Bighorn. Well, the optional models of the Bighorn. If you just get the standard Bighorn, you still don't have a glove box. But I actually like this because you can put your, you know, cell phone and stuff up there, and it's got a rubber mat, so you can actually pull it out, wash it out, and stuff like that. The dash materials, they're pretty much like the Bighorn. They're very plasticky. It's not really until you get up to the, like the Laramie where it gets better. But there's no leather stitching or anything in here. It's just basic, and it's really actually nice because to me, what I've realized is, you know, you can get all these luxury trucks and all these features, but not many people actually use them. And the thing is with this truck, it feels like you're back in the mid-2000s with an actual work truck, or not even a work truck, just like your standard truck. My dad had a 2006 Ram 1500 Bighorn, and this thing is way more well equipped than that truck. So like for 2026, you get adaptive cruise control, standard, right? You got cruise control, lane keep assist. If you look at the mirrors, the blind spot monitoring has front and rear park sense. So you get all the sensors and stuff basically on this, you know, what you would call a lower end model. But I actually like it. Yeah, again, the doors look a little plasticky and a little cheap, but you know what? I do like how they added satin nickel finish to the door handles to kind of make it feel a little bit better. The cloth seats, yeah, they're firm, but man, they're nice. I actually like these. I actually prefer these comfort, like more, there's actually more comfort in these seats than I would say in the leather. And I actually really like that. So again, I don't feel like I'm really losing anything out on this. Now you do get a standard 8.4 inch screen for 2026. And what's very interesting is it doesn't have navigation. However, on my iPhone 16 Pro Max, I just uploaded iOS, 26, right? So now, if you look, I have navigation. I have, you know, Apple CarPlay. If you have Android Auto, you can have that. That's wireless too, so you don't have to have the phone connected, which is really nice. But I can have my GPS. I can have my Apple my Apple Music, my whole, you know, library of music, and my phone as well. So let's talk about the back of the truck. Back here, it's pretty basic. You do have that satin finish handles still back here. You have power window. Door panels are pretty plasticky. You do have pockets in the seats, which are nice. But back here, you do have vents, but you don't have any USBs. So if you're wondering like, oh man, that's pretty much a done kind of thing, you can get a cord and run it from the middle of the front dash right between the seats here and have tons of USBs for the kids. I really wish Ram would do something similar to what Ford has done for the Maverick and offered kind of blueprints so somebody could like 3D print something to hold a phone or maybe a cup or something back here. It would have been kind of cool. But the seats are super comfortable. Look at how much these seats are both all the way back, and look how much leg room there is in this cab. Crazy, right? The only difference is these seats here do not recline like the upper scale trucks. They're standard. They do actually fold up, so you do have a flat floor, but they do not recline. They don't have that recline feature like the other trucks do. You do have cup holders in the back. Very basic, but you do have those. Again, the seats kind of feel firm, but they are really, really nice. I don't know how they would hold up to against like pop stains and stuff, but again, I wouldn't mind these seats at all. I think they kind of feel like a denim material. They're kind of tough, and again, they're nice and actually kind of cool in the summer, which isn't bad because considering the truck doesn't have ventilated seats, it's not like as hot as what leather is when it sits out in the sun. Now, looking at the bed of the truck, this truck does come equipped with the bed utility group. So you do have the rails that are adjusting on the side. You do have a spray and bed liner, which I have to say is almost a must for me for these trucks. I had it on my 2019 truck. I absolutely love my spray and bed liner. It works great. You do have hooks in the corners, which is nice. But if you come back here, you do have a soft dampened tailgate, which is nice as well. But you do have a 115 volt plug outlet back here, which is nice. That's connected to the cargo light system. You do have LED cargo lights, which you can turn on and off. But one thing that irks me about this setup is you do have an LED light underneath your handle here at night, which is nice. You have LED actual license plate lights. You have LED bed lights, but you don't get LED cargo lights in the third brake light. And to me, you know, Ram could spend the extra 2 cents and put different bulbs in there to make the truck look more modern. Having halogen lights or incandescent light bulbs in there just make the truck look dated. And it's not something that all the other truck companies are doing still. Everybody's kind of moved up to, you know, LED lights on the exterior. I just think it's kind of a dumb move. To me, it feels like they're cost cutting, and that's something they could do better. Now, with my shadow being here, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that the truck does have dual exhaust tips for the Hurricane and Hemi trucks. But one thing you'll notice here is part of the bed utility group, you do get the Mopar side step. So in order to activate it, you just put your foot here and pull it out. A lot of people try to kick it in the middle and it locks into place. You just have to put your foot here and just kind of kick it back up into place. But it's nice to get access into the box. One thing I forgot to talk about in the cab, part of the Tradesman Level 1 package that's really nice is you do get a power rear sliding window. So that's a nice feature if you wanted to open up the doors and kind of like, you know, get the heat out of the cab. It's a power sliding rear window that's activated via the over-the-head console in the truck. And you can see here, this is where you activate it actually in the cab. So you can just press this and it opens the rear slider, and you can see it in the mirror there. Watch when I close it. So not a bad option to have. You do have a sunglass holder, which I have my sunglasses in, my Ray-Bans, because it's nice to put them away. You do have a little light up here that's on all the time, so at night it actually lights up the center console really nice. You do have lights here. Again, I wish they were LEDs. I don't know why they keep using incandescent bulbs in today's world. And you do have, you know, the ability to turn on the lights for the cab as well up here. You do have an SOS button, as well as a Uconnect Assist button as well. And for those ladies who are wondering about, does it have a lit vanity mirror? No, not in this trim level. So unfortunately, you'll have to use that to do your makeup in. I will say that this truck does steer on rails. Steering is actually really firm, which is nice. I actually like it that way. It's, you know, kind of my preference. I'd rather have a firm kind of steering than something that's very loose. I mean, it's different if you're driving a 1970s like big boat, but in today's world with these cars, I do like firm steering, and this truck definitely has it. Now, driving this truck off-road, like on dirt roads and stuff, it drives really good. It does bounce around a little bit. You can see that it bounces here because the roads are so rough, but it's completely unloaded too, other than myself in a backpack that's in the truck. But cruising on normal, you know, like here, we're out in kind of the suburbs of Metro Detroit, it does drive really nice. You know, it kind of fits in with the rest of traffic. the Hurricane engine does really good going up hills and stuff. You don't feel any sputtering. But again, that Hurricane engine is ultra smooth while driving. I've been really impressed with how it actually feels in city driving. Again, it's just a question of reliability because the engine hasn't been out for so long. Again, hopefully Stellantis can, engineers can go through, make this engine bulletproof, because everybody would love to have an inline six that is pretty bulletproof, just like the old 4-liter PowerTech inline six that was in the old, Wrangler TJ, as well as the XJ Cherokee. I think that would be really cool. But again, because of how technology is now, these motors are more complex. But if it was reliable, I think a lot more people would switch over to the Hurricane. Like going up these hills here, once boost kicks in, anything over 1200 RPM, it goes. So if you're just coasting down the hill and stuff and you're over 1200 RPM, as soon as you press that gas pedal, it responds really quick. It seems to be that 1200 RPM on the standard output is where it really lags up until. So again, this truck's just being broke in. I basically just broke it in when it came to me, and now it's got almost 1,000 miles on it. And there's no doubt in my mind that as if this truck adds a couple more thousand miles on it, that fuel economy and stuff will get better. But right now I'm averaging about 15 to 16 miles per gallon in mixed city and highway driving. Now, if you guys are wondering about what's it like with the Hurricane engine on merging, how does it go in acceleration on the highway, I'm going to show you real quick. So you can see, again, while it's got boost, so basically over 1200 RPM, it will start to accelerate really quick. And I don't even have my foot all the way to the floor. Maybe 3/4 of the way down. So it gets up and goes. Once it builds that boost, it goes. I'm really impressed with the performance of it, as long as it has that boost going. But again, you can see running at 76 miles an hour, we're running pretty close to 1900 RPM. So it does run a little harder than the 5.7 liter HEMI at highway speeds. So again, you're going to see here, we're going to merge onto another highway off of this one, and this is a very tight turn here. Recommended 25 miles an hour, and again, the truck just rides on rails. We're doing 30 and it's not veering off the lane. I'm actually cutting in kind of closer to the corner, but this truck handles really good considering it's got off-road tires, a 1-inch lift. I got the air conditioning going, and it feels like it's still got plenty of power. But let's see, now we got traffic coming up here, so we're gonna have to merge over really quick. We get over, you can see people just cut in here. But I mean, we barely hit the gas down and we're already doing 70. So, I mean, that was maybe half throttle just because I had that car coming up to my side. But again, with the mirrors on this thing, you got convex mirrors, you have blind spot. You can see people coming, and that's the nice part about this truck. It does, again, has tons of safety features. We got adaptive cruise control. We can hit adaptive cruise, set the cruise control on this thing, and you can see adaptive cruise is good to go. So again, this truck does have a lot of features that are really nice for the average person. I will say one thing, a lot of people have complained about Ram and their air conditioning systems, especially like in my 2019 truck. The 2019 trucks were just terrible for air conditioning. This thing, blowing nice cold air, and you can see it's 84 degrees outside right now. So I'm really impressed. Whatever they did to fix the air conditioning system in these trucks, thank God, because for a long time there, they barely blew any cold air whatsoever. Overall, I think the Ram 1500 Warlock is probably the best package for 2025 and 2026. It's not just a bare bones truck. A lot of people look at it as a bare bones pickup truck. However, when I actually look at it and dig deeper into all the technologies that you're getting, it feels more like a back to bones truck. It doesn't feel like something that's trying to be a luxury car. A lot of people have gotten kind of used to that, and you know what? I find out, like, I had a Laramie Sport, a 2019 Ram 1500 Laramie Sport. Half the features on that truck I never used. Never. And this I actually enjoyed just as much as that truck. I mean, I liked my panoramic sunroof and stuff like that. You can't get it with this truck. But you know what? It's not like a deal killer by any means. I think that, yeah, $56,000 is a lot of money. And unfortunately, with inflation and how things have been since the pandemic, that seems to be the norm. But I will tell you that there are deals out there, and you need to shop around, because some people who have bought these trucks on our forums have gotten really good deals on them. So make sure to dealer shop. Don't just settle, like, go into a dealer and just say yes. If there ever is a markup on a vehicle, just walk away. You can always find a dealership that's willing to sell you a truck or a car or whatever without markup. So there are options. Now, if we talk about what truck's right for you, again, the Warlock package across the lineup is pretty solid. So if you like the off-road looks and you're not going to tow and you're just going to drive it around the street, I would say get the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6. Now again, plenty of power on that truck. It does get really good fuel economy, but if you're not going to tow, if you're going to tow like up to 6,000 pounds, that's a perfect powertrain to have. If you're looking at towing like a boat to the, boat ramp every weekend, or towing snowmobiles up north or whatever, then you're going to have to look at the Hurricane or the HEMI options. Now with the Hurricane, I will tell you this, I'm kind of tossed up between the Hurricane and the HEMI. On my side, the Hurricane is a much more modern motor, okay? It's got plenty of power, does have its pros and cons just like the HEMI, but the HEMI's a 23-year-old engine. It's been a while since we've gotten an update to it. I really wish that a Gen 4 HEMI would come. I would love to see something else. However, until that happens, if it was between this and the HEMI, I don't really know what I would choose, honestly. I do like the smoothness of the Hurricane engine. When it comes down to fuel economy, don't worry about that, because honestly, the HEMI and the inline six, there's not much of a difference. Maybe a mile or two difference, depending on what your driving condition is. But I just showed you that this little Hurricane engine does run higher RPMs on the highway. The HEMI, much more docile. However, if you like quietness, smoothness, this is your powertrain. And it still tows the same kind of numbers that the HEMI does. So you're looking at almost 11,000 pounds of towing with this engine, depending on, what you're towing and what configuration you get. The HEMI, okay, it's been around forever. Not a lot of people like the e-torque system. And we're really hoping that in 2027, Ram will recertify the non-e-torque system for that truck. And that should take off big time. But until then, we're stuck with the e-torque system. Honestly, again, 5.7 liter HEMI is solid. It's proven. It sounds awesome. And for 2026, it even sounds even better, because now you're getting the Mopar catback exhaust as standard. You're getting a bigger fuel tank standard. There's just a lot of positive things about it. It's a much better deal for the HEMI in 2026. But when it comes down to day-to-day driving, honestly, it just kind of depends on what your preference is. If you like the HEMI sound like I do, you might lean towards the HEMI. But if you're looking for fuel efficiency and stuff, there really isn't much of a difference. I'm going to be honest with you. You might get a mile per gallon better with the Hurricane. So again, it's a toss-up between the two. Ultimately, if I had my choice, I would have brought this package with the third gen EcoDiesel V6. I wish the EcoDiesel was still around. If that engine was still around, this would have been the perfect package for that engine. Unfortunately, that's not available. So again, it's just prior to choice. So ultimately, if I had to pick one, I don't know. I'm kind of tossed up between the HEMI just because I think it's kind of an outdated motor. But I would probably go with the HEMI just because of all the additional equipment you get with that package for an additional $1,200 over the Hurricane engine. Honestly, you get a 33-gallon fuel tank, the Mopar catback exhaust, and it sounds good. And again, because this thing doesn't make huge amounts of difference in fuel economy, I'd probably go with the HEMI. But that's just my opinion. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to tell you which powertrain you should buy. I think there's options for everybody, and that's what makes this package so great. I think that this goes back to the basics of where Ram trucks should be. And you're not afraid to use your truck as a truck. It's not a luxury car. And again, it's not breaking the bank in today's world compared to like $90,000 half tons, which are pretty much the same truck. You're just getting more gadgets and stuff that you're not going to use. So again, I wish this had a couple of things. I wish it had steering wheel controls. I wish it had heated seats. I wish it had the heated steering wheel option. I think that would be a really good set for buyers. But other than that, you don't need all the fancy stuff. You got Apple CarPlay, so you got navigation. It's pretty much a done deal for this truck. It's got everything that pretty much 90% of truck buyers want, and it's got a little bit more than what people expected. So make sure to check it out at your local Ram dealer. Drive it. I think a lot of you guys will be impressed. It's great on the street. Like here, we're cruising Woodward Avenue. It does good on Woodward, and it does good out in the country like I drove it the other day. So stay tuned for the next truck, because this next week, Ram is sending us a 2026 Ram 2500 Express. And I know that's a big package for Ram, because obviously there's been a lot of questions about that truck. So stay tuned. We're going to cover it all here on Mopar Insiders 5th Gen Rams and the Mopar Junkie YouTube channel.